It's later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And I got to tell you, as a lifelong Dodger fan, today has been something special. My earliest memories of falling in love with professional sports are inextricably linked to all things Dodgers. My dad sitting me down, explaining the rules of the game, telling me about the glorious history of Dodger baseball. The greats from Sandy Koufax, Roy Campanella, Duke Snider, on down the line. And I remember growing up, it's like, why is it the Dodgers had never had, I was thinking of this as a child because I was a stat nerd and geek back then, why the Dodgers never had a great home run hitter, the likes of a Babe Ruth or a Roger Maris, someone who had hit at least 50 home runs. Nobody had hit 50 home runs for the Dodgers. Duke Snider was the closest, but no one wearing Dodger blue could hit 50 home runs. And as I got older, I understood the intricacies and the nuances of the game. Dodger Stadium was not a hitter's ballpark, but it was a pitcher's ballpark. It was better for pitchers than it was hitters, and it was less likely that someone playing for the Dodgers was ever going to hit 50 home runs. That's just 50 home runs. That has nothing to do with 50 stolen bases. Now, the Dodgers have had some great base stealers over the years. I remember Davey Lopes, one of my favorite players. It was Maury Wills and others. Dodgers had some speedsters on the base paths, but they never had someone like Shohei Ohtani, who had power and speed and could do it all, basically. And when Shohei Ohtani came into Major League Baseball, playing for the Angels, it was unheard of, someone who was going to be a position player and a pitcher. Now, there might have been players who had the ability, but it wasn't done in Major League Baseball. You did one or you did the other. Or in an emergency situation, they would use a position player to fill in as a pitcher at the end of the game because they had run out of pitchers. You see it today all the time. But nobody has ever played the game like Shohei Ohtani in the modern version of baseball. Of course, there are players like Babe Ruth, who's a pitcher as well as a hitter. But that's not considered the modern version of baseball in today's game. And Shohei Ohtani the discussion was whether he might be able to be the first player in Major League Baseball history to hit 50 home runs and steal 50 bases in the same season. Now, each feat singularly is pretty damn impressive. Hit 50 home runs in one season? Steal 50 bases in one season. And the game has evolved where it's not like it used to be in the 70s and 80s when you had like Ricky Henderson, and the goal was to maybe bunt, hit a single, and then steal second, maybe a fielder's choice, get you the third, and then a fly ball, sacrifice fly would get you home. No, the game has changed. It's all about the long ball. So stolen bases were less of a focus in the past 10, 20 years in Major League Baseball. But then you have these generational talents like Shohei Ohtani, who basically said, you know what? No, I'm going to be adept at home runs and stolen bases. And today, we're in the same building as AM 570 LA Sports, our partner station. And so we were following this as it was happening, getting the Dodgers feed. We could hear it in the hallways. And all of a sudden, the place just erupted because it wasn't thought that Shohei Ohtani was going to get 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. If at all, he wasn't going to do it in this game against the Miami Marlins. He was going to get it maybe, or hopefully, actually, you want to do it in front of the home fans. But Shohei couldn't wait. And there was this moment, and people just shrieked with glee.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Runner at third, 2 outs. And the pitch coming to Shohei Ohtani. He swings, hits a drive to left. This ball's back. There it is. Number 50. The first player in the history of Major League Baseball to have a 50-50 season. He is incredible. Shohei Ohtani with an opposite field home run. 50-50. a day for Shohei. He is the new all-time single-season home runs leader for the Dodgers, and the first ever Dodger with a 50 home run season. Shohei Ohtani is incredible. He is one of a kind.
Now, the only difference is when I was growing up, I was listening to Vin Scully, and there's no one like Vin Scully, so I'm not going to compare anyone to Vin Scully. But I know in a moment like this, Vin Scully would have let the crowd tell the story. Vin Scully would have said fewer words, not more. But that's just my personal preference. It still was a tremendous moment.
Standing ovation everywhere. He's barely made it through the dugout yet with all the congratulations he's getting. That ball went over the left field fence to the right of the bullpen. Somebody's got it out there.
They're going to hold up the game.
That's Rick Monday.
50-50. Did you ever think you'd see this from one player? Holy smokes. And by the way, it's 14-3. And Shohei comes out for a curtain call. First time this year. And the game being held up, everybody, Marlins fans, Dodgers fans, witnessing history here this afternoon.
And the strange thing was, or one of the many strange things, that wasn't, I would say, the apex of the day. He hit another home run after that for number 51. In fact, he's at 51 home runs, 51 stolen bases, and there's enough time left in the season now where the real conversation has already begun whether he could be a 55-55 player. 55 home runs, 55 stolen bases. It was baseball history. It was American history. It was Dodger history, all wrapped up in one moment today. And if you are a baseball fan, if you are a Dodger fan, this was a tremendous moment in franchise history and also fandom history. Congratulations to the Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani. Now just bring home a World Series, please. That's all I ask. It's Later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Last school term, I would say most universities got it wrong. They did not know how to handle the Gaza protests or the retaliation to the protests. They didn't know how to handle the encampments. They didn't understand how to navigate the free speech debate on a private campus. And for the most part, most of the universities messed it up. They escalated the situation, or they made it into a situation that they could not handle. Law enforcement was called in sometimes, or for some, with a heavy-handed response. For others, they thought that law enforcement was too patient and allowed the encampments to remain for too long. And then it got a number of universities realizing that there had to be a policy in place as far as what the university response would be, what the discipline for students who violate the policy would be, how professors and university staff are supposed to comport themselves, whether they're going to be allowed to participate in the protests. All of that needs to be made clear up front because the war in the Middle East is expanding. School is now back in session, and there most likely will be more student protests this year. Stanford said, well, let's get out in front of this. And this is what Stanford has chosen to do.
Stanford University is welcoming students back to campus. With the start of the school year comes new and clear rules on speech and events. Last spring, pro-Palestinian encampments went up sporadically amid the Israel-Hamas war. The contentious time led to student arrests, barricades, and graffiti on several buildings. On Tuesday, Stanford released what are called the Freedom of Expression policies. Unauthorized tents will be prohibited. Students concealing their face may be asked to identify themselves by a university official. In a video, the provost explains other disruption policies.
A provocative poster may be okay in some places around campus, but not placed on the personal residence door of an individual targeted by that speech.
White Plaza has long served as a place for student gatherings. This is where we saw the encampments set up. Stanford's new president is vowing to enforce the no camping policy, which was already in place last term.
This is the problem with how colleges and universities have approached the challenges of policing free expression to the extent they're allowed to, is that it's inconsistently enforced. So what you get are double standards.
Nico Perino is with...
No, I disagree with that. It's not that it's inconsistently enforced. It's just that there was no established and public policy and guidelines for both students and faculty to follow. If everyone knows what the rules are, when you violate them and you know the penalty, then you can handle it accordingly. You don't have to agree with the protesters. You don't have to agree with anything. You don't have to even take a side in any issue. And if you look deeper into the Stanford policy, they're saying that the school, the administration, the university is not going to take any sides in future disagreements. That's fine, so long as everyone knows that's the expectation. And this is what people forget. Free speech has nothing to do with what you can do or allowed to do on a college campus. It is a private, when I say private, in other words, it's not like a public space. You know, these universities have money from outside private interests. You can't just camp there. You can't set up shop there. You can't do what you want when you want because you happen to pay tuition there. It's really simple. But I think they gave the students too much latitude with the encampments. Now, there was a place and space they could have had a respectful debate about it. But when the encampments popped up and they did not do anything about them, then they were forced into a position where you can't remove them now because you let them stay for a week. Now they're saying that they're not going to let them stay at all. Regardless of whether you agree with the issue or disagree with how Israel is handling the fighting in the Middle East, how you protest is separate and distinct from that. And if you are willing to lose your college education, then do you. But you don't have a constitutional right to set up a camp. You don't have a constitutional right to disrupt classes. You don't have a constitutional right to be heard on an issue in a way that you think you should be heard, be that barricading a mess hall or a classroom or forcing an administration to listen to your demands or even making those demands. You can try, but you don't have a constitutional right. Now, where it goes from here is you will find different universities having, I think, the wherewithal to have these policies in place because there will be more protests this year. Now, it may not be before the Christmas holidays. It depends if something happens again in the near future. We know that the 1 year commemoration, not to be confused with an anniversary, but the commemoration of the Hamas attacks of October 7th are coming up soon, and you may see some activity then. But it would behoove these universities, these colleges, to have a plan in place in advance of future encampments so they don't make the same, I would say, mistakes this time around. I love looking at the face of Mark Roner.
You just said the word behoove, which officially marks you as a member of the authority figure class. It would behoove them.
Yes. Look, I am going to side with the administration in the sense that when I say administration, university administration, they have to protect their interests. They have to protect their campus. They have to protect the students which are on campus. They have to protect their endowment. All those things are part of the equation of how they have to manage these protests. And by and large, they mess them up. It's not about whether you agree with them. It's about, I thought they were short-sighted in how they should handle them. And also, I had a criticism of those who were protesting because they were protesting with no real realizable goal, no real method of obtaining that goal, and simply camping out on the university lawn was not going to bring about the desired change. It was not going to change U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East.
Well, didn't they get some changes that they wanted at assorted campuses, which largely consisted of the universities divesting from investments that the students found offensive?
I think Occidental said something to the effect of, we will bring in the students and hear their concerns or give them, I don't know, some lip service or something. I don't know if by and large any universities divested. You know,
it makes me think of, like, what would you and I have done if we were college age during Vietnam? Because there were protests everywhere then. You ever see an old Elliot Gould movie called Getting Straight, where he's a grad student amid all the campus protests?
I think I saw it, but I wouldn't remember.
It's a terrific movie, and if you can find it streaming online, it is well worth your time to watch. The guy basically just wants to get his dissertation and defend his dissertation done and be above the fray, and he finds out the lesson that we all learn sooner or later in life, which is that you're in the fight whether you think you are or not. It's very worth watching, and I think it has lessons that you could apply to this situation.
I agree. There are some fights that you cannot avoid, but just because you can't avoid a fight, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a strategy going into the fight. Just because that you may, in your mind at least, feel that you have the moral authority in the stance that you're taking, it does not mean that the steps that you're employing, the tactics that you're using are either going to get you closer to that goal or are going to engender any support from those outside of your ranks.
Of course not. But can you think of any time when everybody approved the methods of someone's protest? It just doesn't exist.
No,
it's always going to make somebody angry.
No. Well, there's a difference between making someone angry and then also being effective as far as getting you to your eventual goal. And I always use the civil rights movement as an example. Yes, the marches were going to make people angry in the 1960s, but also the marches were a way to see how nonviolence retained the moral authority in the ask for the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Now, from a tactic standpoint, you can say you should not have done nonviolence. Violence was being perpetrated against black people. You should have responded with violence, but you would have not received the groundswell of support from those around the country outside the African American community if violence was employed. And that's why Dr. King said we must retain the moral authority in our tactics in how we approach this and how we pursue it.
And he was brilliant for that. Protests are always supposed to be disruptive, though, and having covered them, riots as well as protests, as well as the police response, it's kind of it's a nuanced issue because neither side behaves as well as you would like them to behave. So there's always some jerk contingent among the protesters who's going to smash a Starbucks window and give the whole movement a bad name. And there's always going to be, and I say this as somebody who's been shot with more rubber bullets than any reporter you know, there's always going to be police who overreact with the force.
Yeah, but this is a very important distinction. It's not about protesting whether you piss people off. It's not about whether someone likes the method of protest. It's about whether protest helps you get closer to that goal, assuming you have a stated goal, or whether it gets in the way and people lose sight of the goal because the protest itself has turned off so many people that it becomes ineffective. Now, Dr. King also said that the riot is the language of the unheard. He acknowledged that many ways that the riot can bring about change in the ways that sometimes diplomacy, my word, can't. I know we're over, but this was very important. If you go back to the assassination of Dr. King, it was because of the assassination of Dr. King in 1968 and the riots which happened immediately thereafter that Congress felt compelled to pass and Johnson sign the Fair Housing Act because they thought that the country could not continue on that path. And it was a moment of urgency with the murder and assassination of King and those riots. It had to be done. So yes, it's a complicated issue, and there's not one size that fits all. There's not one way that's going to bring about change. But all these things have to be mindful. You have to be mindful of all these things as you're pursuing these protests.
I wanted you to use the word behoove again, and you didn't.
Well, it would behoove you not to mock me, or I will.
Yes.
It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And you've probably heard me and Mark Ronner go back and forth about digital misinformation, disinformation, AI, deepfakes, and how that could have a disproportionate impact on this presidential election. any election for that matter, or just how we may receive news or perceive what is the truth or facts in our day-to-day world. And Governor Gavin Newsom earlier this week signed 3 different bills into law regarding AI and deepfakes. The first one is going to ban digitally altered political deepfakes. The second one that he signed targets deepfakes by compelling platforms to pull down such content when users flag them. But that bill won't take effect until next year. And he signed a third measure requiring disclaimers on political ads that use AI. But the first and arguably the most important one, which bans digitally altered political deepfakes, will take place and go into effect before this November election. And in a bit of political theater, he signed them publicly as part of a conversation with Salesforce CEO Mark Bidioff. He had the bills on his lap. It wasn't even a desk or a table. It was on his lap, and he signed them in his lap in front of an audience. Here's some of that audio.
AI, how it's just exploded in our consciousness. It's, not lost on me that 32 of the top 50 AI companies, at least market cap, are all here in California. Truth and trust, the stress, anxiety, promise, peril, all of it just sort of dominating our consciousness. And right now, for me, I got 991 bills on my desk, and about 38 of them are in this space. There are a lot of deepfakes out there. There's not a lot of disclosure. There's not a lot of labeling. So among the many AI bills that are on the desk are 3 specific election-related bills. And then you want to sign some laws? I just thought, why waste your time with a politician unless they're going to do something for you? There's 2 are signed, and 3 are signed. And this is now official. That is now injunctive relief if you do any of those deepfake election misrepresentations. So that's how easy it is to govern in California.
Governing is one thing, but the actual practical application of the laws, that remains to be seen. I don't know how impactful, how effective it would be given the proliferation of deepfakes on all social media platforms. Yes, I can point to X, but I can also point to TikTok. I can point to Facebook. I can definitely point to Instagram. I don't know the starting point. It's one thing where you have this legislation where it says that you're supposed to pull it down if it's confirmed that it's misinformation, but who's actually going to enforce that? What's the enforcement mechanism? That's what I don't understand, and that's what I don't know. It's one thing you're going to say, hey, Elon Musk, you have to take down that Taylor Swift endorsing Donald Trump deepfake photo. But if he doesn't do it, then what?
Deport him. How's that for starters?
Well, he is an American citizen.
Oh, well, he is now.
Yeah, so right. I don't know if you can deport him.
Well,
but,
I was just throwing an idea out there. But I don't think most people understand what not just a Pandora's box, a Pandora's toilet is opening up with the abuses of AI. And so I keep on saying we need to regulate this stuff into oblivion at the point where it destabilizes our country and our politics. We need to do something. And, maybe this is a drop in the ocean. We'll find out.
Well, it has successfully delegitimized, in some people's eyes, news reporting as we've known it. In some people's eyes. I think it has undone our confidence in information that we see. You always have to ask yourself now, is that real? Is that deep fake? Is that
that's
AI?
Exactly what the bad actors want. They want us not to be able to count on anything or trust anyone. So that's why we need to clamp down on this stuff hard and now.
Well, the clamping down, Governor Newsom is clamping down, but it's almost like that game where you try to clamp down on the stuffed animal And if you don't have a real good clamp, it doesn't really do anything. You're not going to get the stuffed animal. You're going to keep putting money in that machine. You're going to keep losing. And even though it may be well-intentioned, the clamp is not effective. That's the only analogy I can think of.
That's a splendid analogy. I'm kind of fixated on it. If you could use more carnival machinery in your analogies henceforth, I think it would behoove you.
Call back.
Come on, Foosh. Come on. Let's have one.
No, that was a nice callback. It wasn't funny.
First one of the night. But do you not agree, though, that at the very least, look at it this way. Let me backtrack. Since Elon Musk took over Twitter, he has been identified in studies as one of the greatest spreaders of disinformation in the country. And that's in addition to him replatforming Nazis and all that other stuff.
Well, he has his own platform. That's why he has that ability, because he gets to say what he wants to say to the largest amount of people, and he gets to say which stays on his platform.
Right. But the United States has all sorts of limits on free expression if it damages other people. And this, to me, falls into that category.
Well, I agree with you that just because what we may do is insufficient, that is not reason enough to do nothing, and that's not reason enough to not do more. I know double and triple negatives.
That was a Zen koan. Are you kidding me?
But you understood.
I sort of did, Master Poe.
Well, look, just because it's difficult doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it.
Correct. Yeah, I totally agree. But as far as what's going to be enough, I mean, one thing that I want to make clear is the people who complain about clamping down on disinformation, those are bad guys.
They want the disinformation.
Yes. It's disinformation. You really have to twist yourself into a pretzel to count disinformation as free speech.
But see, here's the thing. We live in a time now, and we can blame whomever or whatever, but we live in a time now where people are not interested, by and large, in truth and facts and information. They would rather have the affirmation and those things which reinforce their worldview. They don't even need to be true. We can point to what is going on in Springfield, Ohio. It's not true. It's been confirmed that it's not true. And people are still leaning into the idea of Haitian migrants eating people's pets because it's what they want to hear and what they want to believe.
Well, honestly, who doesn't enjoy a little Labrador now and then?
It's Later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And we're going to tell you about the best airports in North America, the mega airports, the large-size airports, and the mid-size airports. And let's see if any of them are from California.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Very quickly, we were over last segment because Mark Ronald was running his mouth. It's all his fault. J.D. Power... Love blaming you.
You love to wait till I'm absorbed in something, and then you like to say something that's going to make me not just do a double take, but a Milton Berle triple take.
You're really dating yourself with Milton Berle.
Uncle Milty was he slapped.
J.D. Power has the 2024 North America Airport Satisfaction Study, which is overall customer satisfaction index ranking. Can't get into deep with it, but I can tell you as far as the mega airports, I'll just read these to you. Coming in at number 10 is Boston Logan. Number 9 is Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Number 8 is Orlando. Number 7 is San Francisco. Number 6 is Harry Reid, which is Las Vegas. Number 5 is Dallas-Fort Worth. This is, again, overall customer satisfaction among mega airports. Number 4, JFK in New York. Really? I don't know about that. Number 3, Phoenix Sky Harbor. That's a nice one, yeah. Number 2, Detroit Metropolitan Wayne County Airport. Haven't been there in decades, couldn't tell you. And number 1, overall customer satisfaction index rating according to J.D. Power. 2024 North America Airport Satisfaction Study, Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. Now, if I could just find a reason to go to Minnesota again, I've only been once in my life and I can't find another reason to go, then maybe that might be a good reason to go, just for the airport. For large airports, 2024 North America Airport Satisfaction Study. Coming in at number 10, San Jose. Do you know the way? Number 9, Salt Lake City. International Airport. Haven't been there. Number 8, Portland. Yeah, that sounds right. That's a good airport. Number 7, Sacramento. Yeah, I can see that. Number 6, Hobby. Is that Houston?
What is it?
William P. Hobby Airport. I think that's Houston.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah, a Hobby International. I'm pretty sure it's Houston. Number 5, Nashville. Number 4, Dallas Love Field. Yes. Yeah, like that airport a lot. Number 3, Kansas City International. Number 2, Tampa International. And number 1, and this deserves the Olympic march, is very important. The number 1 North American airport overall customer satisfaction index ranking is John Wayne Airport in Orange County. Number 1 of large airports in the country, according to overall customer satisfaction. Medium airports. Got a little more time. I'll just tell you very quickly. There's no one. Oh, yeah. Burbank Airport is number 15. That's the only one from California. No, I'll take that back. And Ontario International Airport is number 4.
The Burbank Airport rules.
It's great. I just can't ever find a flight that I need out of Burbank.
Yeah, in fact, it rules so much that I hesitate to talk about it on the air because I don't want to ruin it.
Oh, no. Everyone knows about it. You just have to be able to find a good reason and a good flight out of there. I think only 2 or 3 airlines fly out of there. But it's a great airport. You know, you have to get used to kind of getting off the plane at the back and walking to the terminal. But other than that, it's great.
It's like the good old days.
Yeah, it's like the 1960s.
When men wore suits and fedoras on the plane.
I know. That was something else. People dressed up to fly.
Uh-huh.
The worst experience I've ever had on a flight and landing was at Burbank. I was flying Southwest, coming in, I was coming in from Las Vegas. And it was clear that the pilot overshot the runway or landed a little too late. And I could have sworn we were swerving left and right. I thought we were going to skid right on the Hollywood way. Oh, no, you could tell everyone was like, it was one of the few moments where I thought, okay, we're done. Close up shop, turn out the lights. We're going to end up in a fireball and they'll have to bring out the fire trucks. And I would end up on the 6 o'clock news.
Well, I already hated flying.
Oh, I tell people all the time, I'm not a nervous flyer, but I'm not a comfortable flyer. Not in the least. Not in the least.
No, I grip the seats on the plane like I'm at the dentist's office.
I do too. And it's just 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever. Let's just get through this, and we'll go on with our lives, hopefully. And I just try to, and I say a prayer each and every time that I get on the plane. It's like, if this is going to be the one, let me just die in peace. Let me just, release it and be as calm as possible, because I think that's the worst way to go.
Oh, yeah. On the rare occasion when I get bumped up to first class, which honestly doesn't happen that often, I'll take 2 of everything before we get going.
Yeah, I haven't had to do that too much. If only because a lot of my flights were in the morning, and I'm not going to drink in the morning. But if it's like an evening flight or a red eye, I'll toss them back.
Get that single malt over here.
That's right. Because if something happens, there's nothing I can do. I might as well be somewhat calm in the moment. Somewhat.
Oh, yeah, because this has been proven in traffic accidents as well. When you're all loose like that, you're much less likely to suffer a serious injury. I mean, of course, you're going to get vaporized in a plane crash.
I don't think it's going to make any difference if I'm uptight or loose. But,
I'm just trying to justify getting loaded before the plane takes off. That's all.
It's Later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere. The iHeartRadio app.
KFI is literally the KFI of talk radio. KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere.